Yes, welcome members back to this our YouTube channel. It has been quite long since we last talked. Yes, we've been lost, but now we are back. Karibuni sana. Okay, today we are going to talk about tenting, that is tile tenting. These are things that usually occur, and many people are really suffering as a result of this. So, what do we mean by tile tenting? Tile tenting is the lifting of tiles from their original or originally installed position and begin to push against each other, creating a tent-like bump in the middle of the floor. Some people usually call it tile popping. It forms something like a V. Okay, when tiles are laid, they are horizontal. Then this tenting now makes them form something like a V. Through this discussion, you'll realize what causes this. But as per the definition, that is what we mean by tenting. And again, for you to understand tenting very well, you need to understand this thing that I'm about to say. To understand tenting, one must appreciate that each of the various components within the flooring system are continuously expanding and contracting, and that this movement places a constant stress upon the tile adhesive. To keep the systems together, So in a successful application of the in a successful application of tiles, you'll realize that the sum of total stress is weaker than the tensile strength. Tensile strength is the bond strength. So you'll realize that the stress is weaker than the tensile strength. And the force that makes the tile to pop is weaker than the force that makes the tile to stay. However, in a failed system, the stress forces build up over time and eventually exceeds the bond or the tensile strength, thus making the tile to pop or tent. So, why? You'll realize that tile now changes in dimension, which means tile elongates more than the substrate. What do I mean by the substrate? The substrate is the concrete beneath or the adhesive, cement adhesive that is used beneath. So when you lay tile on top of adhesive becomes cooler. Why cooler? It is covered by tiles, and again, below is a concrete. So it remains cool. While the tile on top or on the surface keeps on changing due to changes in weather. So you'll realize that tile gets heated very fast as compared to the adhesive beneath. So tile expands very fast as compared to the adhesive that is beneath. So the difference in terms of expansion causes or interferes with the bonding effect, hence making tile to separate from the adhesive. Another thing that we have to know is that what causes this movement? The largest source of movement comes from the shrinkage of the concrete substrate as it cures. Another thing, the amount of shrinkage is determined by the number of factors like type of cement used, the mix design, and water stroke cement ratio. Those factors that I've just mentioned determines the amount of shrinkage in the substrate. Another thing that we should be knowing is that as using a cheap mix or cheap cement also is another factor. I think I'd mentioned that. So if you want the shrinkage to lower or to be smaller, then you have just to use good type of cement, that is quality cement or adhesive. Your design mix must be proper. With that, and again, the one I'm forgetting here, cement water ratio also must be proper. With that, the rate of shrinkage will be lower. Another thing that we have to take into consideration is the stress from the contracting concrete, that is substrate, is compounded by the tendency for the ceramic tiles to expand. The most common and largest causes of thermal expansion, as from the room is reheated by the sun or heater, the ceramic tiles start to expand as they heat up. However, a ceramic tile are not good conductors of heat. So, since they are not good conductors of heat, you realize that their rate of expansion becomes faster than the concrete or the adhesive beneath. Hence, the pop-up. Something that is very interesting is also most of the ceramic tiles are made from clay soil. And now the bonding between clay and between clay and adhesive is poor. Hence, you realize with this kind of movement and forces that I've just mentioned, the bonding will be affected, and hence the tile will pop. Another thing is okay, before I get to another point, allow me expand on the point that I've just mentioned. Sources of expansion is irreversible. Sources of expansion is irreversible in moisture expansion. This type of expansion is often misunderstood and only occurs when certain types of crystalline mixed structures of clay are present in the body of ceramic tiles. When these crystalline come into contact with water, they react with it and swell, which in turn increases the size of the tile. That's a very interesting point. Tiles that are prone to irreversible moisture form small cracks. Let me repeat that. Tiles that are prone to irreversible moisture expand, having massive problem with the stability of their glaze as they tend to crease, i.e. forming cracks on the surface of the tile. And as this happens, high quality issues of the ceramic tiles is compromised. I think those are the causes of tile popping. Now, allow me, ladies and gentlemen, talk about factors affecting the bonding strength of a tile adhesive. The maximum bonding strength is determined by the mixed design of the tile adhesive. The more cement and additive used, the stronger the bond will be. So bond strength, however, is also proportional to amount of contact between the tile surface and the adhesive. The maximum bond strength of adhesive is usually 1 Newton per millimeter square, and only 50% of a tile surface is in contact with the adhesive due to poor bonding or skimming. Then actually the bond strength will be only 0.5 Newton per millimeter square. Thus, poor application techniques can be dramatically affecting the bond strength. So in short, if you do proper spreading of your adhesive, you'll realize if it is 100%, then you'll realize that the actual bond strength will be 1 Newton per millimeter square. With that, I can guarantee you that your tile will be intact. Okay, another important factor that we need to note is the porosity of the tiles or the substrate. If the porosity is high, moisture is sucked. Moisture is sucked out of the tile adhesive, which results in partial hydration of the cement and thence weakening the strength of the bonding. So you have to ensure that your tiles are not porous so that the moisture content within the adhesive is intact for proper bonding. It is also important to note that stronger bonding is only part of the solution if you want your tile to remain intact. What are the factors that can be manipulated to reduce the shear stress within a tile floor to acceptable level? 1. Use a high quality flexible adhesive instead of contractor's grade. Once you do that, the rate of tenting will be reduced. Increase the strength or flexibility of contractor's grade by mixing with a bonding liquid instead of water. 3. Apply a base coat or keying agent slurry to the substrate prior to applying adhesive and tiling. 3 factors which are very important. If you observe them, then I guarantee you that your tile will remain intact. 1. Use of high quality flexible adhesive instead of contractor's grade. 2. Increase the strength or flexibility of contractor's grade by mixing your adhesive or bonding with bonding liquid instead of water. There's a liquid that nowadays people use. Instead of using water, you use that liquid, and with that, it increases the flexibility of the adhesive. Apply a base coat or keying agent Larry to the substrate prior to applying adhesive and tiling. Three things. With that, the effect of tinting will be a thing of the past. So, ladies and gentlemen, these are things that has been affecting many buildings, and people are worried. What? Why tiles keep on popping every now and then? If you listen to our discussion carefully, then you are not going to have this problem. And in most cases, you realize that when these tiles pop, you realize that some come out very clean and neat, leaving adhesive intact. That purely or properly explains that during that expansion, tiles elongates more than adhesive. So the bonding system is done away with. Now the tile comes out clean, leaving the bonding substance or the adhesive. But in other scenarios, you realize that tile pop with the adhesive together. In such scenario, we talk about poor workmanship. Maybe the surface was not prepared adequately. You see, when you are preparing your surface before even applying adhesive, one, you have to ensure that all the loose particles are removed and it is very clean. Such that if you now pour that your water, the water will ensure that all the particles are eliminated. Two, it will also reduce the rate at which the substrate or the base or the concrete absorbs the water from adhesive. Adhesive should set with the water content that is in it for proper strength. So if you put adhesive on a dry surface, then the dry surface will suck the water content that is in adhesive, making adhesive to set without proper water content, hence weakening the strength of the bonding. Your tile will pop. So prepare the surface properly, water it, and again, if you want to increase even the strength, then I've talked about the liquid that you are supposed to use. Then you spread your adhesive. And again, the mix of adhesive also matters. Because if there's too much water content in adhesive, which means there's a lot of air particles in that adhesive. So once you lay it, this air will try to escape. When they are escaping, they create voids in between in adhesive. These voids will interfere or will hinder the bonding between tile and adhesive. So your adhesive should be properly mixed. It should not be too saturated with the water. It also should not be too hard. And again, ensure that the 10 millimeters thick adhesive is maintained. Because if it is 10 millimeters thick, it means the spreading of that adhesive on the surface is uniform. It is uniformly distributed. Hence, it eliminates the kind of voids I was talking about, so that if you place your tile, the tile is on the adhesive that is properly distributed. And that will also eliminate or reduce the popping effect. Two things I've talked about. One, when these tiles pop, others come out clean, which means it is not as a result of poor workmanship, but it's a result of expansion difference between tile and the substrate. Whereby substrate, I mean concrete or adhesive. 2, as a result of poor workmanship. In that scenario, tile pop with the adhesive content. That means that the surface preparation was not properly done. And another thing, guys, that you have to take into consideration, that there are several types of tiles. I would just say that ceramic tiles are made of clay or from clay soil. And the bonding between clay soil and adhesive is not 100% at par. So get proper adhesive for ceramic tile. And when we are using granito tile, also get proper adhesive for granito tile. Should you just go for any adhesive, my friend, you'll keep on repairing your floor every now and then as a result of popping or tinting. Yes. So, in summary, causes of tinting. We have talked about shrinkage, concrete substrate as it cures. I've also talked about thermal expansion, whereby I've said concrete expands at a slower rate, which rather than the tiles, hence making them to separate from each other in a layman's language. Another factor is irreversible moisture expansion. This happens with ceramic tiles due to presence of clay soil in those tiles. The movement creates shear within the tile, thin adhesive bed. Hence, shear force exceeds the tensile strength of adhesive, then delamination occurs. Delamination means the separation of tile from adhesive. Ladies and gentlemen, I wish to stop it at that point. But should you have any other question on the same, please just leave your comments. I'll go through them and we'll answer. But once you realize that there's tile popping, tinting, don't rush to conclusion that this may be as a result of poor workmanship. No. Check how these tiles are coming out. If they are clean, they are coming out clean, it means what I've just explained. Those forces, the shear, the shear stress, and the tensile force or bonding force, the difference in them. If they are coming out with adhesive, it means the surface preparation was poor. That's poor workmanship. One thing that I was also forgetting, once you have laid tiles, you need to do grouting. Grouting is important and it helps. How does it help? It helps in such a way that when tiles are expanding, the lateral forces are moving. This tile transfers that force to the next tile through grout. But if grout is not properly done, then that area becomes a weaker point, whereby the forces are now released at that weaker point, making them to tend, forming a V shape. So do proper grouting. Proper grouting allows transfer of heat from one tile to another. And that's why you'll also realize that 300 by 300 millimeter tiles, in rare cases, do they have this problem I'm talking about. The 600 by 600, the 400 by 400, or 1200 by 1200 usually have this problem. Why? Because the surface area is big. So for that force to move from one end to the other end, or from one joint to another joint, takes time. And again, when you are spreading the adhesive for a surface area of 600 by 600, you see, that's a bigger area. You may not be as accurate as possible as you spread your adhesive. Hence, several voids left beneath that will result into your tile popping because as a result of poor bonding. But the 300 by 300 is a smaller surface area, so which means the spreading of adhesive will be accurate. and will be okay. So when you lay your tile, the bonding is proper. So just take your time, do it slow by slow, pole pole to, and you ensure that you are accurate, you eliminate air voids, you do your preparation for the base properly, and such like this kind of mistakes will be avoided. Maintenance is usually very expensive, so let us guys try to avoid these minor mistakes when we are doing our tiling. Another thing that I would like to say is that joints. Do also use tile spacers, because this one gives us the uniformity in jointing. I've just said that this joint play a lot of role during tile contraction and expansion, or transfer of heat from one tile to another through the joints. Why? If a joint is wider at the other edge of the tile and smaller at the other edge of the tile, it means the rate of transfer of heat will vary. When the heat is leaving the joint to the another tile at that particular end, on this side, the heat, you realize the transfer of heat is still within the joint. So the joint should be should be constant, sizes constant, and this one can only be achieved when you are using tile spacers. Ladies and gentlemen, I beg to stop at that point, but should you have any question, please do leave them. We'll answer them later on when we handle another thing or another topic on the tiling. Thank you very much. Do enjoy your evening, or I can say you enjoy your night. Asanteni sana.